Over the weekend, I began reading this novel by Crumley, The Last Good Kiss, and it got me thinking about Steve McQueen's Bullet film. This came out in 78, came out in 68, and they're both crime dramas. That era, into the early 80s, produced great crime series in fiction and in film. It's not a surprise why Ed Brubaker, author of Criminal, Velvet, and Sleeper, and other crime-themed books, goes back to this era quite often. But there was also a very good comic from that time, and that was Kelly Green by Stan Drake and Leonard Starr. It was published by a European company, Dargaud, in France. Now, Drake and Starr are American, but they were asked to do this series with a European audience. It was going to be a crime drama and with adult themes. It came out between 1982 and 1987, and volume 1 is called The Go-Between. And what's interesting about this series, well, there are many things that I find really fascinating about this, is that the hero in the story is Kelly Green, who is a go-between the criminal world and the civilian one. The story begins with the murder of her police officer husband, Dan Green, in a drug bust. The twist occurs when these strange men show up at her house. They're ex-cons. She doesn't know them. But they knew her husband. He was the one who sent them away. But when they got out, her husband was there waiting to get them back on their feet. And they weren't alone in this. There are many others her late husband helped out. They're there to pay their respects and also to help her in anything she needs. And now, this is where Kelly Green ordinary life becomes rather extraordinary. Someone contacts these men, a blackmailer, who wants her to be a go-between himself and a family that he's basically extorting. It's not sure, we don't know why this person wants her, and neither do the three ex-cons. She agrees to do it, but she wants the ex-cons to find out who killed her husband. He was clean, but there was people who were corrupt and on the take in the police department, and she suspects foul play. And volume 1, you have strip bars, gay clubs, and the games people play, the wealthy, the games rich people play. That's what I meant to say. By the time we get to volume 2, this story here is something out of a Gallo film, those Italian slasher films from the 70s, which Edwige finished, starring quite a few of them, like I think The Bloody Iris was one of them. Here you have two stories where you have someone kidnaps this prized dog, and Kelly is going to be the go-between the person who stole the dog and the family. But there's another story here that's taking place. You have this wealthy family which is an absolute mess, and the kids are being knocked off. She gets involved in this because the landlord where she lives is a trust fund girl, and her sister has just been murdered. And Kelly takes a personal interest in this story. It's a fascinating story. I won't go into too much more in this because of the surprises that take place. But definitely they go into the darker elements of the human heart. Now, volume 3, The $1 Million Hit. This one has oil companies, organized crime, and embezzlement. You have an executive who wants her to find out who has been taking money from his oil company. someone embezzled a lot of money and is threatening him with, I'm going to reveal to the world how I did it, because it's pretty easy to do. And Kelly's going to be, again, the go-between. There are many interesting things about this story, because one of the twists that occurs is with this man here. Unbeknownst to her, she thinks he's some cowboy. He's actually a U.S. senator investigating the oil company's connection to organized crime. But the real twist in the story occurs when there's a plane crash with her, the senator, the pilot, and 2 other people. It crashes during a blizzard and they're stranded for weeks. And how they survive is absolutely intriguing. And how it ends is even more fascinating. Volume 4, The Blood Tapes, is about a rock star who's been murdered. And the last recording that he made, the tapes have been stolen. And the person who stole them is blackmailing the record company. So the question is, who killed the rock star and who's the blackmailer? But for me, the fascinating part is this man here. He's a member of organized crime. He's also looking for the tapes. And in this story, we learn that he has a strong resemblance to her deceased husband. The difference is, this man's from the dark side. Her husband was straight-laced. There's an immediate attraction between them. And at one point, the man even tells her, we're going to become lovers. She doesn't want to accept that. And she says it's not possible. But there are scenes like this, and there are many like this throughout the series, which I think are very realistic, where she says, just drive away, just drive away. But the mobster is fascinating. He's got this library at his house and wonderful paintings. And at one point she asks, did you read all those books? And he goes, no, not at all. And why do you have them? He was in an orphanage when he was a kid, and a priest there looked after him and taught him everything he knew, including manners. When the priest died, he bought the library. Sentimental value. And like the previous volume, the ending to this is just wonderful. You don't see it coming at all. There's a 5th volume to this series, which was published in France, but never in the US. Well, at least never translated in English, that's what I meant. However, there's a complete edition of Kelly Green that includes it. I have not read it, but it is available. So if you like crime this is the series to get. From 1982, 1987, Stan Drake and Leonard Starr. Noted cartoonist. And a fascinating read. Thank you for viewing.